Hello, this is Linda Crystal from Star Radio Network. I'm here to talk about the disappearance of Debra Lee Spickler. Disappeared from Vernon, Connecticut, July 24th, 1968, from Henry Park. And we have a picture of the tower. I don't know when that was built, but that in itself, to me, looks kind of spooky. Maybe it looks nice to you guys, but it's kind of spooky to me. And I put everything together here in an effort to try to help you remember back to 1968, because we are talking 40 years ago. And my theories, if you've been reading my articles on associated content, have said that I do believe there was a delivery driver, a man, in the area that day. Might have been every day. Might have been in that neighborhood every day, and people just didn't pay any attention to who he was. I think the community knows him. I believe that's why when he took Debra, that he hid her, he buried her. I do not believe she's alive. If you've been reading my articles, I'm sorry. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't find her. That doesn't mean we shouldn't find out what happened to her. And I believe that he hid her quite well because he was known in the community, along with several other girls. I believe that Lisa Joy White is also associated to this case. But anyway, I want you to take a look at the movies of 1968. I want you to take a look at the television programs. I want you to take a look at the map, because from Debra's astrology chart of the day and her natal chart, these are the areas, these two areas. I do believe the attacker came from the south, and her death zone would be to the east and southeast. And yes, she's buried. And I'm going to say this now because I can't believe that nobody would have checked this. You take a look at where all the girls were being taken up and down the coast of Connecticut. And then the guy honeymoons in a cabin at Hammonasset State Park along the beach. And this is exactly in my profile. Here's an H. That comes from one of the other cases. And there was actually two bodies along that roadway there. I do believe that there are several people, like an Aries, a Capricorn, a Scorpio, a Virgo. These are all signs that I believe would be involved in this particular case, and the person may be incarcerated, he may be dead, because there's two or three that I'm going to take a look at, and Mead is one of those. I do believe he falls right into this category because, yeah, he definitely was not a good character. The Elvis Presley Comeback Special was on. Lyndon Baines Johnson was our president. Nixon was voted in shortly after that. Robert Kennedy was assassinated in Los Angeles. Dr. Martin Luther King was killed. And the riots started. Jane Mansfield died. Apollo actually flew around the moon. That was just before the moon landing. I mean, I'm trying to take you back to a time. Those people that boarded that park, you looked out your window, you sat on your porch, you were out in the yard that day. It was the middle of summer. It was a hot day, probably very humid, maybe getting ready to rain. If I'm picking this up correctly, maybe this girl went by the water, but she was definitely in that park, and all those people that were around there, you saw something. You might not have realized you saw something. You were seeing everyday activities going on, and then all of a sudden this girl happens to disappear. So I want to bring this to the forefront now, and I want you to think back to that time. Where were you that day? What were you doing? What did you see? What delivery drivers were in and out? Was there utility men? Well, one of the girls was found with wire and a tarp. Okay, everybody's talking about the tarp. Well, wait a minute. She was wrapped with wire. This could have been a utility guy. Please, we need some help. You know, this family's gone without the daughter for over 40 years, but they should know what happened to her. And I believe she's buried, and I believe she's buried with other girls. So please, email us, make some comments, contact the police. But please, let's try to find her. Let's try to find out what happened to the other victims. They shouldn't just be forgotten about. Thank you for listening. Please keep reading my articles. Thank you for your comments and your well wishes. This is Linda Crystal, Star Radio Network.